All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All righty, thank you so much. Hopefully you can see the presentation now. Nick, can you give me a thumbs up if you see our home train? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Living and Dining on Campus session of Culver Connections. My name is Dr. Angie Royal, and I am the Vice President for Student Experience.
I'm Nick Frank. I'm the coordinator of Res Life, and I also help out with the football team.
And so tonight, what we're going to do is hopefully walk you through kind of the ins and outs of residence life and dining on campus. We do ask that throughout the session, if you wouldn't mind, please keep your mic muted. But if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat. I'll try to keep my eye on the chat. Coach Frank, if you wouldn't mind, keep your eye on there if I happen to miss things. But if we do happen to overlook something, you are welcome to unmute and give us a little nudge, and we will get your questions answered. We'll certainly leave time at the end for questions as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I wanted to do is to definitely go through and just make certain you are aware of our residency requirements. On-campus living is required for all full-time students, all 4 years at Culver-Stockton College. We do believe in the importance of living on campus. All of the research shows that students who do live on campus tend to be more successful. Exceptions to this policy are students who are married or who do have legal dependents, students who are going to live with their parents or legal guardians, students who are 21 years of age by September 21st. But the caveat to that is that this may make them ineligible for institutional financial aid. So if I do have a student reach out to me and they say, hey, Dr. Royal, I'm interested in living off campus. I'm over 21. What I will always do is have them contact financial aid to see how that is going to impact their aid, because that then does reduce their cost of attendance, which then does reduce their aid. And then lastly, if they are a junior or senior nursing student, they are eligible to live over in Quincy because Blessing Raymond Nursing School is over in Quincy. So again, we do have that requirement for students. So please just make certain your students know that.
All right, so I'm going to talk about room assignments real quick. How are the students going to get housed, or how are your students going to get housed? So right now we're going through the process of implementing a new housing software, eRes Life. And so basically what this housing software would do will allow your students to be able to pick their own rooms. And then also if they want to, basically it creates a roommate match for you if your student decides they want to use it. Um, when will they get these assignments? Normally assignments come out July 1st. We're hoping to have eRes Life up and running within the next 2 weeks. So hopefully a little bit before then, but no later than July 1st for sure. And then talking about room consolidation real quick. What that means basically is if your son or daughter shows up to campus and their roommate decided not to show or come to Culver, I'd let them know to not get super comfortable, basically. So sometimes we need that space, or we have to optimize the space. And so if there's two people in a single room or a room by themselves, we might have to house them together to either make ADA accommodations or kind of things like that. So. Okay, so where will your student live? Right now, our two freshman dorms are Wood and Sperry. These are the dimensions on there for you. They're all, excuse me, let's start with this. Wood is as the first and second floor is female, and they're both community style bathrooms. The third floor is male, also community style bathroom. Sperry's kind of the same idea, but reversed. Sperry is the first and second floor are male, and the third floor is um, female. Sorry, I had just slipped my mind for some reason. But and then we're gonna show you a video of kind of what the Wood Hall looks like real quick.
And friends, I'm going to try this. And if by chance it does not work, I will throw this link into the chat so that you can watch it after the session. So we're going to try this really quick. Not always successful with this. One moment. And this is Woodhall, if it works. Can you see that, Nick?
Okay, and we'll take a look at Sperry real quick. Okay, when it comes to room changes, so how do you request room changes? Basically, your son or daughter will have to come to me for it, and kind of tell me what's going on, why they want a room change, and then normally I try to do my best to try to work something out in their best interest and um, for them. But who approves it is only me and me only. So if your son or daughter tells you that, or if they hear it from the RA, like, hey, it's okay if you guys move, it's not. It only comes from me and me only. So just make sure they know that coming on campus when they, because I know a lot of people like to ask about room changes. So if they have any questions, just come ask me.
One of the reasons that I wanted to point out that it's important that room changes go strictly through Coach Frank is that, you know, we need to make certain that they are officially moved in our system, right? If students unofficially move rooms and we don't have it on record and, you know, God forbid there's some kind of emergency in a hall, you know, we need to always know exactly, you know, who is in each room. And so that's why it is so important that that our students always follow the you know, the proper way to change rooms. So again, you know, please just make certain that they absolutely follow that proper process for that. One of the things that, as you can imagine, will probably happen is, you know, there will probably come a point when your son or daughter, you know, may run into an issue with their roommate. You know, for a lot of our students, they may have had their own bedroom most of their life, and now we're putting them in, as you saw, you know, like a 12 by 14 space with someone they may have never met before. And they may have very different ideas on how neat or how messy the room should be, or, you know, whether or not they can borrow each other's things. So there's all kinds of opportunities for conflict to happen. And so I do want to let you know that our residence life staff, whether it are our RAs, our resident directors who are professional staff that live in the halls, Coach Frank, they are all trained to deal with roommate conflicts. And what we try to do, though, is we really try to get these students to work the situations out amongst themselves first. So, when a student comes to the RA, the first thing that the RA is going to recommend or ask is, hey, have you spoken to your roommate about the issue? And you'd be surprised at how often the student tells us, no, they haven't. Um, or, something that I see a lot in my office is they'll tell me, yeah, Dr. Royal, I talked to him, and then they'll turn their phone around and show me like their Snapchat conversation, or text message. I'm like, no, 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 no. Have you spoken to your roommate about it? Because as you can imagine, there's lots of tone and other things that can be misinterpreted in a text. And so we really try and work with them on having those conversations with their roommate, because being able to address conflict is a skill that they're going to need throughout the rest of their life. So it is something that we will work with them on. We will offer mediation with them, where we can sit down with them and help them talk through that issue with their roommate. The other thing that we will do with them is we can have them, and we will have them for our new students, actually do like a roommate agreement when they move in, where they can actually kind of, sit down and discuss, okay, how are we going, what are the things we want to agree upon, when it comes to cleaning the room, and what are our thoughts on, maybe sharing food that we have here, or having guests over, or, how, what time we, want people to be gone, or how loud we want the music, or how late we want music, all of these things, so that everybody's on the same page with, how life will be in the room. So those are all the kinds of things that we'll be doing with your students whenever they get moved in.
Here's just some two short lists of kind of some ideas of what to bring and what not to bring. Mini fridges and microwave are encouraged. I think every student should have a laundry basket. I think it's a good idea for that. Shower shoes, I think, because they're going to community bathrooms, I think is a big also. The bed size is twin XL for the sheets. Um, we do also encourage a small fan, and then just hangers, computer. Some things not to bring. Air fryers are on the list, not necessarily because it's a fire hazard, but it could basically oh, what's the word I'm looking for here, Angie? Is leaving my head right now.
It's it's a power issue. They can
Thank you.
overload our breakers, and you know we don't want to be blowing fuses constantly with everybody running their air fryers, microwaves, TVs, all of the things that
Right.
they have going at the same time.
Yeah, so thank you. Words are hard today. So toasters, grills, hot plates, space heaters we don't allow either. Air conditioners, they'll have AC in their room. Instapots, pizza ovens. The big one that I normally or my RAs have to confiscate a whole bunch is candles. They're allowed to have those candle warmers, but not candles themselves. Basically anything with an open flame, they're not allowed to have.
Just something else that I wanted to point out, which is something that we see, especially after like graduations, is, like somebody might buy them a bottle of champagne, or, a decorative bottle of something. And unfortunately, they can't have any bottles of alcohol, even if it's a decorative bottle. If they are 21, or even if they are 21, even though we aren't a dry campus, if it doesn't meet our alcohol policy, which we're still solidifying right now, but currently students can't have hard alcohol, for example, so they couldn't have, like fireball lights, for example. So just make certain that they understand that they cannot use alcohol bottles for decorations either. Nick, do you want to talk to them for a second too about lofting of the beds?
Yeah, so we don't encourage lofting. If you guys are going to do it, um, we'd rather you do it a safe way with bed risers, but and not cinder blocks. So, but if you are gonna, last year we had a couple residents that their parents made an interesting contraption basically to loft the beds. If you guys are going to do that, we just ask that you email me saying that basically If anything happens, if the bed falls, it's on you guys and not us, basically. So, um,
Yeah, we just ask that, if you are going to loft the beds, I mean, we do have some bed risers on hand that have been left over the years. Like we don't provide them for everyone. Just always check with Nick to make certain that they're okay to use. You can go on Amazon and purchase bed risers. He can take a look at them and see if he thinks that they're okay. But again, it's kind of at your own risk for that. Um,
so with room condition report, so a room condition report basically is as soon as your students check into their room, they fill out this form that basically states how the room is. So if there's paint chipped on the wall, they need to make sure to fill that out and take pictures of it. When do they fill this out? They need to fill it out as soon as they move into the room. That's what we encourage. If they wait till later in that night, that's fine as well. But preferably the day of, basically when they move in, maybe the day after. We'd like for all the RCRs to be done probably within the first week of school. Um, and so the importance of it is, so let's say there is damage in a room when you move in or when your student moves in, and that's not reported on the RCR. At the end of the year, when the RAs go around and do damage checks, they're going to get charged for it because it wasn't on the RCR. So, and people can say I'm kind of a jerk when it comes to it, but I don't play if it's not on the RCR, then I can't help you out. So make sure your students are filling out their RCRs and putting everything on there. If they're missing a chair, make sure that's on there. If they're, chair's missing a leg, all that, please make sure they put it on there. That way they don't get charged for it.
I did want to point out something that is in the housing contract that your student signs, um, and just to make certain that we're all on the same page. We are not responsible for the personal property of students, so we do encourage you to check your homeowner's policy and see if your students' contents of their residence hall rooms are covered under your homeowner's property. And again, I'm referring to their personal property, such as, their laptops, their TVs, their mini fridge, the things that they bring. If not, we do encourage you to look into renter's insurance. It's usually very, very, very inexpensive to purchase because, again, we are not responsible for the contents or the personal property of the rooms. We are only responsible for the structure of the room. Even if there is a leak or anything like that, just like when you rent a home, we are not responsible for personal property. So please make certain that you do check your homeowner's policies for that coverage. And if it doesn't cover that, we would strongly encourage you to definitely look into that renter's insurance. So I wanted to put on your radar the move-in dates for this year. We will be moving in students. Our first move-in date will be Friday, August the 9th. And so that will include Catalyst, our dining student workers, and some of our fall athletes. So our fall teams that will be moving in are cheer, men's and women's cross country, football, men's and women's soccer, and women's volleyball. We will get out to you closer to those dates, what time of day those different groups will move in, because we usually split it in half and have some of those folks move in the morning and have some of those folks move in the afternoon. So it does go a little more smoothly. Marching band will move in on August 15th. And then all other new students will move in on Thursday, August the 22nd. If you do happen to be the parent of a commuter student, which I doubt, because I doubt you'd be on this call, but if you happen to know somebody that is a commuter student, they would also check in on the 22nd as well, because we will actually start Wildcat Welcome on the 22nd, which I'll talk about in just a second. And then if you also have a returning student that's coming as well, all returning students will move in on Sunday, August the 25th. Now, I do see that there is a question in the chat asking if there's anywhere in the room for them to lock their items up. There isn't anywhere in the room for them to lock their items up. So, something that you might want to look into is, sometimes people will purchase their own lock boxes, that can slide under the bed. or some kind of lockable device for those items that, that they want to keep locked up. Or sometimes they might get one of those like a lock they can put on the drawer of their desk, so that they could lock items in there. Now, I did mention these move-in dates. One of the things that I did want to stress is the importance of these move-in dates, especially that Thursday, August 22nd for new students. It is so important that they are here on the 22nd. I realize that is a Thursday, and that can be a little bit inconvenient for parents that do have to work, and we get that, but we do need them here on that Thursday, because again, we start their Wildcat Welcome that day. And Wildcat Welcome, we're doing all kinds of activities with them starting on Thursday and going all the way through Sunday to get them ready for the start of the semester. So we're going to be doing a number of different sessions with them to arm them with information so that they're ready to go. And some of the activities that we're doing with them that weekend are actually for their required class that they take in the fall semester. And so we don't want them to miss out on those required activities. So again, please make certain that they are here on the 22nd. If your student does need to move in outside of their date, maybe they need to move in, a day early, we do allow that. We will send out in our move-in information, which we typically send out in usually the beginning of July. There will be a form that the student can submit to request to move in early. Just please know that you do have to request permission. You can't just arrive early because we need to have, we need to make certain the room's ready and the key's ready, and that there is a minimal charge to move in early, and that also there may not be dining available depending on the date that move-in occurs. Now, when your student does move in, we'll have on those check-in days lots of things going on. The more things that you have done in advance, the less you'll need to take care of before you actually get your keys and get to go move into the room. So we strongly encourage you prior to move in, make certain you have all of your immunizations submitted in MedProctor, so that you've got that already knocked out. You don't have to stop at the immunizations table. Make certain you've got your bill taken care of, your payment plan set up, so you don't have to stop at the business office table. Make certain your financial aid's all in line. Knock out as much as you can in advance so that and what we do is we go ahead and pre-clear you. All the different offices that are there, take a look to see if you've knocked out things, and we pre-stamp your cards. And it's possible that when you show up, you may just have to, stop and get your student ID if you didn't come to a registration day, and head straight to the Res Live table and you're good to go. I mean, it can be short and sweet for you. So really try and knock out as much as you can in advance. We will have volunteers. We do have faculty and staff and our Wildcat Welcome leaders that are here to help you. So they'll meet you at the curb when you pull up, and they'll start grabbing your things, and they will help you get it up to your room. We really want to try and get you moved up into your room as quickly as possible. We do ask that when you pull up and you unload, that you do move your car as quickly as possible so that the next family can pull up and get their things unloaded. And we do have faculty and staff running around on golf carts. So we will be having you move your car away from the residence hall, again, so that others can pull up and unload their cars. But again, we'll have golf carts there to run you back over to the hall so that you can continue to help your student get settled in their room. On that day, again, we're going to have tons of volunteers there. They're going to be able to access Coach Frank if you have any concerns with your room. He can definitely, get things taken care of for you. A question I often get is, how long should I stick around after I move my student in? If you are here on that August 22nd move-in day, I would encourage you to stick around through, we have a ceremony called matriculation on that day. Usually that ceremony is at about, I want to say it's at 3 o'clock, between 2 and 3 o'clock on that day. And it's actually it's a really cool ceremony. It's kind of like a bookend to graduation where we actually formally kick off their college career. The faculty and staff are dressed up in our academic regalia and we process in and we formally welcome them to Culver-Stockton. We actually have the students, we read the covenant to them, they take their pledge, and then they actually sign the Culver Pledge, and they then get to come to the fountain and they get to make a wish. It's just kind of a really cool ceremonial thing that's always kind of fun for parents to watch. So, so if you are going to be moving your student in on the 22nd, we do encourage you to stick around for that. If you are moving your student in on another day, it's really up to you how long you stay. Kind of feel it out. Ask your student maybe. I know I was the parent of a college student myself, so I get it. It's hard to leave them, but just see what they think. We want you to get them settled, but we also need for them to really start to build bonds with the people in their, not just in their rooms, but on their floors as well. So once you get them settled, it's usually best to give them their hugs and then say your goodbyes. So I notice there's a couple of questions in the chat. Can each student have their own mini fridge in each room? Nick, what is the answer to that? Can they each have their own mini fridge in their room?
Yes, they can. As long as it's not plugged into the same outlet, it should be fine.
Okay.
Obviously, or I was gonna say, if it's plugged into each outlet, you might
Yeah.
burn a breaker there. So
Yeah, the only thing I would say to that too is just it can be a space issue too. The rooms aren't massive. So sometimes that can take up space, but that's just something to consider. All right, so I've been mentioning Wildcat Welcome. So again, that's going to start on Thursday, August the 22nd. And it starts with that move-in and it goes through Sunday. We have so much planned for them to get them acclimated, not just socially, but really getting them acclimated. We're going to have some academic resources that we expose them to, all kinds of things to get them comfortable about being here, safety things. We're going to be going over so many different things, both in the residence halls with them, but also just campus safety tips, alcohol and drugs, all kinds of things. So it is so important that they are here for that full weekend. So please make certain you're not planning family vacations and things like that. We need them here, moved in, and here for that entire weekend. And we will get those schedules out. We usually try to have everything out, usually early July. We do ask that you help us, encourage your student to participate in all the activities. We're going to have our RAs going around and knocking on doors and having them bringing students over to things, but it's really important for them to get out of their rooms, meet people, and start off the year just on the right note. Transfer students, sometimes they already think, well, I've already done this, I don't need to do this again. They do. They're on a new campus, and so it is important that they come out and participate in those things as well. Like I said, we'll also be encouraging our commuter students to join in those festivities as well.
So with laundry, there are 4 machines, 4 washers, 4 dryers in both Wood and Sperry halls. I would encourage, just if your students don't know how to do their own laundry, I'd encourage to show them how to. One thing that we also want to encourage is, we had a incident this past year where a student stuffed a dryer full of, I think it was 60 pounds of clothes in one washer. and set a fire. So um, please make sure they know how to do the laundry before they get here. I encourage that, please. But as it says on there, it is free and no extra cost for you guys. I know when I was in college, they said on my visit it was free, but they charge you $75 a semester at the end of the semester for it. So, but yeah.
Um, if your student is going to be bringing a car to campus, they must register their vehicle. And they will do that on My Culver. It's under Campus Life. So please make certain they do that. Uh, even if they don't register their vehicle, we can still determine, who the vehicle belongs to through the license plate. So it is critical that they do register the vehicle. It is only $85 to register the vehicle. If you've had students on other campuses, it's actually not bad compared to many other schools, but they do need to get that registered. They'll get a sticker. There are fines if they do not register their vehicle. That they can get ticketed not just for not having their vehicle registered, but they'll also then get parking tickets as well. And we have had some students who have amassed well over $1,000 in parking fines. And that not only, is a dollar amount that adds up, but then that prohibits you from being able to register for classes for the future. It's going to stop you from being able to, like if it were in the spring and it were time to select rooms for the next semester, it's going to prohibit you from being able to do that. And so it's just, it's going to stop you from doing all kinds of things. So please make certain if your student is bringing a car, that they do get that vehicle registered. They get that sticker, and also encourage them to please abide by our parking regulations. Now, what are they going to say to you? They're going to say to you, oh, parking's terrible on campus. Is there ample parking on campus? Absolutely. We can guarantee that there are enough parking spots on campus for all students. Is there enough parking at every single residence hall right by their buildings or by every academic building on campus? No. But there is plenty of parking at the Maybe Center, for example. There's plenty of parking anywhere on campus. It's just our students don't always want to have to park somewhere and walk, or they want to be able to drive from class to class. We are a very small campus. There's very few reasons that you should need to drive to class. And so just please encourage your student to find a spot, park, and walk to class. There's really very few reasons that you should have to walk. In my opinion, there really isn't any reason. I even tease the fraternity houses. They have to go up and down a hill. In my opinion, they're maybe the only folks that maybe have a reason to complain about walking to campus, going up and down that hill. The rest, there should be no reason that you should have to drive. So please just encourage your student to walk to class.
You got a couple questions here,
Oh,
Angie.
okay. Let's see. Usually students can start to register their cars. Usually around July 1 is when everything kind of starts happening for the fall. So we'll make certain we get that information out to you. Viewing the recording, if you go to the Culver website and you just type into the search bar, just type in parents, that'll pull up the parents and families page. Usually a day or two after the session, we'll have the link to the recording there. And yes, freshmen can have vehicles on campus.
All right. So when it comes to work order, what a work order is basically, so if something breaks or is not working in the room, so say the AC for some reason stopped working in your student's room, they can go in My Culver and put in a work order for that. Then facilities will come by and make sure it's fixed, complete it, check it off, and then leave. Either your student or an RA can submit the work order. We encourage your students to do it because they kind of know, how long it's been going on and, where exactly it's at. And then one thing that I'm going to have the RAs do at the beginning of each semester is basically teach your students how to submit a work order. It takes maybe 30 seconds. It's super simple once you figure out how to do it. Really, all I have to do is show you once, then it should be good to go. We encourage you to do that, whether it's, there's a chip in the desk for some reason, or like I said, the AC went out, the smoke alarm is going off because the batteries are low, just anything like that. We encourage them to put a work order in.
Speaking of the AC, Nick, it just occurred to me that it's probably a good idea for us to share with the parents about the temperature in the residence halls. So, if you're not familiar with the Midwest, our temperatures are very volatile. It can be 80 degrees one day and 40 degrees the next. And I'm not exaggerating. We actually had within 1 week, it go from 37 degrees to 87. And unfortunately, in our residence halls, they are not like your home where you can just turn the thermostat from AC to heat, flip it back and forth. We actually, in our residence halls, for the majority of them, they're on what's called a double boiler system, where it's heating and cooling water to cool and heat halls. So it takes days for it to happen. And so, yeah, there can be some days where it can be a little warm in a hall or it can be a little chilly in a hall. And so, we just encourage you to, just let your student know, hey, what we do is we look at the weather and we have to do a projection and we look out, for the next few weeks and we make a decision based upon, what is, going to be the best estimate of what the weather is going to be on average. But we do also have to protect our systems as well. We can't turn on the AC if the temperatures are going to plummet, because then it freezes the systems and then we won't have AC at all. Yeah, there can be some days where it can be a little warm in there. But we do always try and warn the students about it and try and give them some tips for staying cool. We do try and have some fans on hand and such to try and make it as comfortable as possible for them. But and again, we try and educate them on this as well. But it's just, this Midwest weather is our worst enemy sometimes. I hate the months of October and April, because those are the 2 months where we do see the most variety in the weather. But we do our best to be understanding, and I let the students know I get it. And we try to keep them informed. We let them know, that we're looking at it, and we really try and keep them in the know with when we are looking into switching from, AC to heat to AC, just so they know that, it's coming. So just wanted to put that on your radar. So the question is, are space heaters, hot plates, or air fryers allowed? The answer is no to all three. Okay, next I wanted to talk to you about accommodations in housing. So the process for requesting an ADA single in housing or to request an emotional support animal in housing, that all starts with our coordinator for accessibility. And the deadline has already passed to request accommodations for the fall. Applications for the fall are due by March 1, and for spring are due by November 1. Obviously, the only exception, there can be a new diagnosis. So if your student has a new diagnosis, they can reach out to our coordinator for accessibility at accommodations@culver.edu. Please understand that, ADA singles, for example, those are provided on a case-by-case basis in accordance with ADA. To qualify, the student has to have a condition that substantially limits a major life activity, and the accommodation request has to be a reasonable request, and we will do our best to accommodate if there is space available. It's always space available is what happens. So when the student does submit their request for the single, if the coordinator for accessibility, if it is approved, then the next step is the coordinator for accessibility will work with Coach Frank, and then he will look to see if we have space available. And if we don't, then students start to get placed on a wait list for it. So if we don't have a space available immediately, that doesn't mean that we won't. As he mentioned, as we do room consolidation and start to move people, spaces can free up. So I just want to make that clear that if we don't have space immediately, that doesn't mean that we won't have space available. Now, with emotional support animals, students can request to have emotional support animals. However, we need to make this very, very clear. Emotional support animals may not be kept in college housing without it being approved first. So please do not bring an animal and then submit the application. You must have it approved first. If a student is found with an emotional support animal on campus without it being approved, the student has to remove the animal immediately, which has meant that students have had to find and pay for a place to board the animal. So again, please make certain that they don't just bring it or go out and buy one and then hope they get it approved. It does need to be approved first. If a student is approved to have an ESA, those students will live in either Sperry Hall or Weldon Hall. And having an ESA does not guarantee a single room. That is a separate accommodation. ESAs can only be in the residence hall. ESAs do not travel into other buildings. They don't go to class with the student. An ESA is not a service animal. Those are two distinctly separate animals. And we're seeing lots and lots of students are confused about the two. So please make certain that your student understands the difference between the two, and our coordinator for accessibility can work with the student to make certain they're clear on the difference between the two. If your student does have a service animal, they are not required to register that animal on campus. However, we would need to have it registered to live in housing. We would need to know that so that we make certain that we do have that documented. If your student does have any housing accommodations, whether it's an ADA single or it is an emotional support animal, please know that they must reapply for that each year. That is not a blanket approval. It has to be reapplied for each year.
So kind of speaking on safety a little bit, all the halls are monitored by RAs, RDs, and campus safety. Campus safety is available 24/7. There's an RD that lives in the building in Sperry and Wood Hall. And they are trained to handle situations wherever need to be handled. There's an RD on call every week. So if a situation happens, he or her will make the right call. And we do reserve the right to enter rooms. We try not to as much as possible, but if it's for like health and safety checks, we do. The RAs and RDs and campus safety are trained to knock before entering. They'll knock campus safety or RA, knock again. If they have no answer, then they'll key in another room and they'll announce they're keying in and entering the room. So we do reserve the right to enter rooms. Well, like I said, we try our best not to. That's the same thing with facilities and housekeeping. If they need to get in the room for like a work order, like I mentioned earlier, they'll do the same thing, knock, housekeeping, no answer, knock, housekeeping, and then proceed to key in. So.
Speaking of keys, when your student checks in, they will be issued keys. They will be issued a key that opens their main door to their buildings and their room. Same key, does both. And they'll also be issued a mailbox key. It is critical that they don't lose their key. Or that they don't just swap keys with somebody and, just like we talked about before, they don't just, do unofficial room changes because we keep record. They will sign what's called a key sheet whenever they're issued their keys. If at the end of the year, when they check out, if they turn in a key that's not the same key that they checked out, there's a charge that goes along with that. or if they lose their keys, it is $100 charge for lost keys for their room. They're also issued a mailbox and a mailbox key. If they do lose that mailbox key, there is a $15 charge for the lost mailbox key. If they do lock themselves out of their rooms, which does happen, they can contact their RA to let them in. They can contact campus safety to let them in. However, staff will only open doors for the residents of that room. So, we don't let, buddies in. It's only the residents of the room that are let in. We do have a limit to the number of times that we will let you in. After 3 lockouts, we will start to assess a charge for it, because then at that point, we're going to assume that you have lost your keys. So we do want to minimize the number of times that you have that you are being let in by our staff. So please make certain that your students, we encourage them. We will give them a lanyard at check-in. So we encourage them to go ahead and put their keys on their lanyard. I also encourage you to have a conversation with your student about locking their room. I am surprised every year at the number of students who don't lock their room. They just leave them unlocked, and then they are surprised when their items maybe walk away. So please encourage them to keep their rooms locked when they are not in their room. So we have a question. Do you try to pair athletes with other athletes? So again, as Coach Frank mentioned, our goal is to use eRes Life this year, which means they will be choosing who they live with. So it would be on them to either actually pick who they live with, or if they there will be a roommate matching option. And so that would be one of the things, or one of the characteristics that it would match them based on. However, if we do not get our new software ready in time, and we go back to the way we have been doing it, which means we house students, then we do, like if they're moving in early, then yes, we would be pairing athletes with other athletes. But I can tell you that for our fall sports, typically our coaches are going to recommend to those fall athletes who they would like for them to live with, and encourage them when they do when they jump online to pick their rooms, who they need to find to live with. Is that correct, Coach Frank? Am I right in that? Okay. All right, break housing. Just wanted to make you aware that there are certain times of the year that we do close housing. We do close housing over Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, and spring break. However, when I say it's closed, there are still some circumstances where students might still need to be here. There are still sometimes sports that are still in season, so there's still practices happening or games still happening. Your student might be student teaching, or they might be doing an internship. Maybe they have an on-campus job that's requiring them to be here. If they are required to be here for any reason, then there is no nightly, there's no charge for them to stay over break. However, if they are not required to be here, but are opting to stay. So if a student, for example, just says, I don't want to go home over Thanksgiving, because our Thanksgiving break, for example, is a whole week. Our spring break is a whole week. Our Christmas break is like 3 weeks. And they just say, well, I just don't want to go home. There is a charge that is assessed for that. I don't know what the charge is currently. That hasn't been decided yet, but it's usually, $20, $25 a night is the charge for that. And over breaks, dining is not offered. So the student would be responsible for providing their own meals over a break. So, and we will have, this information when our housing is closed. That's all provided to students in the student handbook. We usually have that available in July. So before students ever move in, they'll know. And we'll also have our whole academic calendar in there. So you will know as well when all of our days of school are off. I mean, our halls stay open when we, if we just have a day break, like a fall break where we're just closed for one day, we don't close the halls. We still offer dining. But for these big breaks, I just wanted to put that on your radar.
So for room draw, your students will go in for next year for their housing for their next year on campus. They'll go and select their own rooms again. They'll have more options this upcoming year, since they'll be up or not upperclassmen, but they'll be a year older. It's normally late March, early April. We'll have a new software in ERES Life will for sure be up and running by then. Kind of does the same idea. It'll show all the rooms available. Has a roommate matcher based on, if you get up early in the morning or if you're a late night bird, um, kind of things like that. There will be a how-to video of how to actually go through room draw. Normally that's going to be on my Culver, so it's going to take you step by step. How do I request to be roommates? How do I, go and select my room? What's my time slot? All that. Um, your bills must be paid, and you have to be registered for classes for the next semester, or for the fall semester. So if it's not done, then you can't go through room draw. You can't participate through room draw. We have lottery numbers that are assigned based on your class level and GPA. So for instance, seniors with a higher GPA will go first, and then so on and so forth. If they don't go through room draw, I will assign them a room. A lot of students don't necessarily like that, so I encourage you to tell them to make sure they have the bill paid, they're registered for classes, and they actually go through the process. Um, we only house students if they don't go through the process, so please encourage them to do so.
Before I go through dining, one thing I did want to mention that I realized that Coach Frank and I didn't include in here about housing is that one of the things that our RAs do in housing is they spend a lot of time with your students building community. And what we mean by that is they're doing programs in the hall. They're making certain that your students are getting to know each other. They're doing programs on safety, wellness, mental well-being, making certain that your students are learning about resources on campus, all of these kinds of things, and just fun things as well, craft nights, bingo nights, gaming nights. And when we say RAs, we mean resident assistants, and those are undergraduates, they're peers that have been selected. They've gone through an application process and have been chosen and highly trained. They go through an intensive training process to be able to serve as an RA. And then we do have those professional staff that live in the halls as well, the RDs, the resident directors, who are there to provide that additional layer of support for our residents as well. So we really do everything that we can to make our residence halls your students' home away from home. So our RAs will really be focused on making it a great experience for your students. So along with living on campus, dining is another important piece of it. So all residential students are required to have a meal plan. All of your students automatically are going to be placed in meal plan A. This information will all be on the Culver website. We're in the process of getting our websites all updated for next year. They're not updated just yet, but they will be. And so this is what the 2024-2025 meal plans will be. Your student will have the ability, usually starting in July. So they're not able to do it just yet. But starting in July, they will have the ability to go through, and they have through the end of the second week of the semester to change their meal plan in My Culver. They do that under the Campus Life menu in My Culver. I always encourage students to maybe unless they know there's somebody that just really doesn't, maybe they're not a big eater and they just know that, maybe I really do only need 10 meals per week. Maybe just try it out for a few days at the beginning of the semester. And then they can go in and change that. And I'm going to explain what the differences between the meals and the dollars are here in just a second. But these are the different meal plan options. Again, they have the ability to change their meal plans through the end of week 2. So there are 3 different dining halls or dining options on campus. Our main dining hall here in the Gladys Crown Center is an all-you-can-eat option. So they can eat as much as they want in here. They have just different options every day. They have salad bars, soups. In addition to the different entrees that they have every day, they have what they call a show workstation where it might be Philly cheesesteaks or omelets, or I don't know what else they do. Um, uh, Chinese, Asian options. We're installing like a burrito bowl area. There's also panini station, dessert bar. So that's in the main dining hall. You click in, that's one meal when you click in. And again, you can eat as much as you want in there. Cat's Paws, that's more of our, what I consider more of like our fast food option. That's in the lower level of the Gladys Crown. And that's where you can get burgers, wraps, mozzarella sticks, chicken nuggets, nachos, cheese fries, pizzas, things like that. And then our lab is a coffee shop that has more wraps and sandwiches and salads. And so those are our 3 different dining options on campus. These are, and again, this is all on our website, so don't feel like you have to remember this, but you can see we've got dining offered, 7 days a week, variety of different hours. But actually, I'm going to go back to here. So I want to explain, and I thought I had on here, I think I accidentally deleted a slide when I was moving slides around, but I want to explain the difference between, I'm going to go back to this slide. I want to explain the difference between meals and clicks. So your meals, you can use your meals at all 3 of those options that I showed you, the main dining hall, the Cat's Paws, and the lab. Like I said, at the main dining hall, it's all you can eat. So when you swipe your ID, that's considered a meal. When you go to the Cat's Paws in the lab, a meal is an entree, a side, and a drink. Now, at the Cat's Paws in the lab, or at the Cat's Paws, most of your items, like a sandwich, you get a sandwich, say a sandwich, fries, and a drink, but some of the entrees are considered larger. So like if you get a pizza, you're just going to get a pizza and a drink for a meal. So, but a click might be if you want to add some extra things onto it. So maybe I go to the Cat's Paws and I get an entree, a side, and a drink, but I want to add a second side. I can use my bucks that I have, those CSC dollars, to add additional items on to that order. Or maybe I've already had lunch today, and in between lunch and dinner, I want to go ahead and grab an order of nachos. Or, maybe I want to add extra on to, an item at the lab. So that's kind of the difference between the clicks and the dollars or the bucks is kind of the best way that I can explain that. Again, we'll work with your students during Wildcat Welcome, and our Wildcat Welcome leaders will work with them on the difference between the 2. Students can go in and they can add additional bucks in $25 increments at any time. So if they run out of their CSC dollars, that's something that they can add to. But their meals, they end on Saturday night and they start over on Sunday morning, is the way it's been explained to me. Whoops. So, dining on campus, if your student has any dietary restrictions, if they have any food allergies, they need to make certain they notify our director of dining, Lindsay Dover, so she can work with them on this. Usually 99% of the time she can work with the student and provide them options, but they need to start with her on this. And so this is her email address. She's really great to work with. However, if your student does have a serious food allergy and you believe that your student might need to be exempted from their meal plan, we do have a meal plan exemption request form that can be completed. I will let you know, very rarely is it approved. Usually there's only 1 or 2 students a year that meet that criteria because Lindsay can usually work with it. But you're welcome to go ahead and reach out to me. I can get the form to you. The physician fills it out. Lindsay reviews it and sees whether or not she can accommodate it or not. And if she cannot, then we will exempt the student from the meal plan. And if she can, then she works with the student on it. Same thing for a religious exemption. She reviews it, she sees whether or not she can meet it, and then we kind of take it from there. But again, that would start with me. I'm going to stop because I think I see a couple questions in the chat. Are athletes required to have the max meal plan? No. Nope, there is no requirement for anybody to have any particular kind of meal plan. We do hope our athletes stay very well fed and hydrated, but there is no requirement for athletes to have any particular plan. And is there a curfew for freshmen? No, there is no curfew for freshmen. Will dining be available for the early move-in students? Very good question. For early move-in students, the organization that is having them move in early. So for example, Coach Frank is a football coach. So football covers the meals for all of the football players during early move-in. The cheer team covers all of their meal. I mean, they're still in the dining hall, but yes. So it will not be you will not be paying for your student to come early. That is covered by the team that moves them in early. So yes, we will make certain that they are fed during early move-in. All righty. Oops. So, all right. Last thing I wanted to leave you with is that there is one more live Culver Connection session on June 18th at 7 p.m. With athletics called Supporting Your Student Athlete. Pat Atwell, our director of athletics, will be hosting that with coaches. So if you do have a student athlete that's coming to Culver in the fall, I would encourage you to participate in that. But as with all of our sessions, we do record them and then we do post them after. We do already have posted our sessions on the taking care of business session was on financial aid, the business office, and admissions paperwork that needs to be submitted. We do have academic matters already posted, which talks about academic honesty, tutoring, life in the classroom. We do have posted a session on student health and well-being. Like I said, we'll have this session up within the next day or two. And I hope to within the next couple, I will have by July 1 up the getting involved and the commuter student success session. So I see we just got another question. 19 meals per week on largest meal plan. What 2 meals are not served? We do, that's a great question. There is not dinner served in the main dining hall on Sunday night. However, you can still order from the CP, but you could use your bucks for that. And then that's a great question. Let me go back. Let's look here.
I think also breakfast on Saturday.
Breakfast on Saturday. I think you're right, Nick. I think it's a continental breakfast, I think, on Saturday. I will let you know. And the reason those 2 things don't happen is that very, very few students took advantage. I mean, we're talking like under 20 out of a campus of 900. So, yeah. All right, well, that is all of the information that we have for you. Breakfast on Saturday morning. We just have continental options out for students, and then dinner in the main dining hall on Sunday night. But students can still order food from the CP on Sunday night. You are welcome to ask questions. We're still on here. You can throw them in the chat. You can unmute yourself. I'm going to stop sharing now. We do have our email address up here. I hope that you've had a chance to take a picture of that. You can find us on the Culver website as well.
Hey, I have one more question.
Sure.
How do students receive packages? And like, are there restrictions on what can be sent? Like if there's a regular medicine that
That
they
is
get?
That is a very good question. I'm going to add that to my list to add to this presentation for the future. So, students can have packages sent to them. Everybody's address for packages is the same. You just need to address it to the student. Their address is 1 College Hill, and I'm going to type that in the chat here. 1 College Hill. Oops, I forgot I can't just hit enter. Canton, Missouri, 63435. The student will be given a mailbox number, but when they're getting packages, it doesn't matter because it's not like the package goes into the mailbox. So just the student name, 1 College Hill, Canton, Mo, 63435. Please make certain the student's name is on the package. I know that sounds silly to have to say that, but you would not believe the number of packages that we get delivered here, and there is no student name on it. Now, as far as sending mail to the student will be given a student mailbox. And so, and I'm going to have all of this information in a parent email that I send out to you at the beginning of July, but you will address it to the student's name. And then the second line will be their mailbox number, and then 1 College Hill, Canton, Mo, 63435. Great question.
I see another one in the chat. When will the roommate options be open to athletes? Hopefully with eRes Live being up and running in the next 2 weeks, I'm hoping that's when they should be able to. If not, if they know another athlete that they'd like the room with, they can email me, let me know, and I can make sure they're roomed if we have to be the ones that assign them rooms. Room together, that is. Sorry, I didn't say that.
Yeah, and please know that with this new software, because I mean, we're confident that we're going to have this. Nick's been working very, very hard on it. We're really confident we're going to have this ready, and that this new class is going to be our pilot to use this. But we will have all kinds of resources for your students on how to select, to select their rooms and select their roommate, or to use the roommate matching feature. We'll be working with the coaches on how to work with their athletes to make recommendations. So we'll make certain that that we get everybody really comfortable with this when we're ready to release this.
Yeah, and kind of add on to that, we also asked that you guys kind of be patient with us about it. It's a new process for us too. I've been working on it since I think late March. So it's still pretty fresh for me. So there's probably going to be some bumps and bruises along the way, but we'll make sure everything gets sorted out the way it needs to be.
Yeah, we're really excited about the fact that your students are going to be able to choose. It really empowers them, to not only be able to choose where they live, but who they live with. We've been placing them in the past, and, and I mean, even though, we look at their Form Bs, and we do the best that we can, but this really lets them, places the power in their hands to look at different people. And it will also, give them the ability up until a certain point to kind of move themselves around a little bit if they need to. So up until not for very long. But we really want them to be able to pick where they live and who they live with. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, we thank you so much for spending this evening with us. So we'll get this recording up, and we cannot wait to see you at Move-In. It will be here before we know it. Please never hesitate to reach out to us. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.